the amazing pals, amazing buddies, amazing workers that they were designed to be. Folks, my name's Dave Shrine. This is Steve Edwards right here. And we are your tour guides into the theme park of mules and donkeys for the next 60 minutes. How you like that, Steve? We're tour guides now.
Hey, I never thought I'd tour a guide, but there you go. Actually, I did do some guiding, packing people back into the superstition wilderness, but that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, we're here to guide people to make sure that they take that animal and they can transform that animal into that friend that they've always been looking for. Now, sometimes it's a lot of work, sometimes it's a little bit of adjustment, and sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do, but the first step is knowing what it is you need to do with what you've been given. And so that's what we're doing. I got a lot of really good questions here. We got questions about correcting bad behavior. We've got questions about dogs, attacking dogs. We've got questions about hay and pellet. Feed continues to come up, continues to be a popular topic. Lunging, we've got a question about that. Intelligence, we've got a lot of really good stuff here. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and I'm going to refresh here and make sure that we've got our friends watching. I'm trying to find the feed, and I know that we've got some people watching, but I cannot find the feed. You know what? While I'm looking to start welcoming, we'll go ahead and we'll ask our first question. Our first question today, this is all about pushy mules. And Steve, you're going to have to hold on for a second while I read this. It's going to take me out of breath. This one comes from Bernadette on YouTube. Ask the question, how do you correct a pushy mule? Whew, I got through it there. How do you correct a pushy mule, Steve?
How do you correct a pushy mule? Biggest thing is don't let them in your space to start with. So number one, let's just say we don't have a lead rope on them. We don't have the come along rope on them, and they're in my space. Okay. Now, folks, I want you to remember this. You're in the equine world. Ask, tell, demand. The mare, she pins her ears. She asks you, don't come no closer. Then you keep coming closer. Now, I'm talking about you as another equine, okay? So you come on closer. Then she pins her ears and she swishes her tail. She asks you, now she's telling you, and then what does she do? She spins and kicks or runs and bites at you. Now, you're another equine in this position, but you got to remember this. You're a predator animal, and they are a prey animal. So when they are communicating with another animal who they feel that is invading their space, they ask, tell, demand. Now, you got to also remember the thought of comfortable, uncomfortable. Now, I know, that a lot of you want to, I don't want to create any pain for Fluffy. But listen, you just heard me talk about that mule, that mare spinning and kicking or biting. So what little bit you do in the way of jerking a lead rope, what little bit of discomfort, i.e. pain you have, that's part of their life. You can't pat them and say, okay, now Fluffy, don't do that again. You can't do that, folks. They don't understand that. Oh, here's another treat. Oh, miss a finger because your treat ended up being your finger. No. This is not a dog. This is not a predator animal. This is a prey animal. So let's go back. He's in my space. I've got my boots on. He's up in my space. I take my foot, edge of my boot, and I tap on their cannon bone. I don't slap them in the head. I don't bang on them or anything like that. I don't touch them in the chest like you see some horse trainers do. I tap them on the cannon bone. And when I do that, I say back, back. Tap them on the cannon bone. That makes them uncomfortable, okay? First, you say back with your hands. They don't do anything, then you tap with your boot and tap it hard enough and they'll get out of your space. Now, I've even had them to where I just kick dirt toward them as they're coming into my space. But remember, folks, it's your timing. If they're already in your space, it's too late. It's too late. Now, up over at Minnesota, at the Minnesota Zoo, we had some big Percheron horses and some creams as well. And they were American creams. They were gorgeous horses. But I said to the trainers and to the animal handlers and to the bosses, I said, all right, tell me what's your number one problem. They said, well, these horses are mucking us out. Well, what do you mean? Well, when we go in to feed them, they step on us. And when you talk about feet this big, they step on us, they push us around and this sort of thing. And one lady spoke up and said, yeah, I got a broken arm. The other one said, I got a broken toe, yada, yada. So I said, okay, give me 2 buckets of grain. So I come walking in, and you can see the horses out there in the pasture. And here's the feed area right here. I come in, I'm saying, come on, come on. And I'm shaking the feed buckets. And here come these big old, 1,500, 1,800-pound perch run and American cream horses come busting at me. And everybody's thinking, man, this little short fat guy is going to get wasted. and when they're coming at me, they're within about 10 feet. I kick some dirt at them. They stop to look at the dirt like, why did that dirt move? And I went and I poured the first bucket in. I put the one down. They started coming at me again. I kicked some more dirt and I went like this, throw my hand up, and they stood right there while I poured the other bucket in. Turned around, took both buckets, walked out. You should have seen the looks on those trainers' faces and on those handlers, okay? You know what? All I did was use something natural. These folks that say they're natural horsemen, okay, why do you have the halters misadjusted? Why are you still using a snaffle bit when they're past 3 years old? And I can go on and on and on and on. But, there's a major difference, y'all, when it comes down to training that's, quote, natural. No such thing.
Yeah, very good. Hey, so I went ahead, I figured it out. We've got all of our friends. They're all joining us. I got nervous for a second because I didn't see any comments, did some refreshing. Folks don't know this, but when Steve's talking, I'm in the background here typing, replying to people, checking out comments, getting links. I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I had to do that, and I found our friend Steve. Judy Luce from Norco, California is hanging out with us. Rebecca, greetings, Steve and Dave. I've learned a great deal about mules from you folks, through these podcasts. Thank you. You're welcome, Rebecca. We are pleased to do it. Keith Carmichael says, Steve, hope you're enjoying your knife sheath from the leather shop. Did you get a new knife sheath there, Steve?
Oh, man, it's nice. I tell you, I should have brought it and showed it to you.
We'll have it for next week.
That's right. Keith, I actually called and you were gone. So that's what can I say? And I told your secretary to tell you, thank you very much for that nice knife sheath. And also, I'll have to show you all. I won't tell you what it is, but next week, I've got a mystery to show you that Keith Carmichael gave me. It's pretty awesome.
That's going to be awesome. Well, hey, folks, show some love there to Keith. He put a link to the leather shop, his Facebook page. Go ahead, check that out when we're done this afternoon. Tracy McKinnon says, good morning, Steve and Dave from Queensland, Australia. So we've gone international again. Tracy, we're glad you're here. Erica says hi from Oklahoma. Richard says hi from East Texas. Meredith says, hey from Sonoya, Georgia. And Richard says, like the hat. Tell us about the hat real quick there, Steve. You've got quite a collection. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, this one here comes from Australia. It's my friends Dave and Di in Australia. And when they come here and visited, and we took them down to the ranch and we rode the mules around, we showed them what ranch in Arizona looks like. Dave had this hat made for me. This is a genuine rabbit felt Australian hat. And he brought it all the way. It's a very comfortable hat, not a bad looking hat at all, And he gave me this hat. And so, as you all know, I kind of enjoy hats. I love spurs and I love bits. And don't get me started on that.
I was about to say, I was like, Steve, we have too many mule questions to get into the hats. But I can see right behind you there, that's where your hat rack is. We'll have to, actually, I've got some videos. We'll put out those videos of you talking about the different hats. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be a lot of fun. Well, hey, we've got folks over on YouTube watching as well. We've got Tackmeister and we've got Robin watching from Houston. Tackmeister and Robin, we are so glad you guys are here. There's 3 things that I want to let you know as we get going. Number 1, please just say hello. Put in the comment section your name, where you're watching from, and if you want to share a little detail about the weather, about your mule, we'd love to hear that too. So let us know that you're here. You are the ones who guide the conversation, which leads me to number 2, any and every question. We need those questions in the comment section. We've got a good, healthy number here, but we give priority to Facebook Live. So Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So if you've got one in real time, we will get to it as soon as we finish the next one. or the last one we've got in the queue. We'll get to yours. We'll prioritize it. And the third one is to share the broadcast, especially if you're on Facebook. Facebook allows you to tag friends, family, people that you know on Facebook who are going to really appreciate what we're doing here. And Facebook also has a little share button. We rely on y'all sharing, not only to affirm what we're doing and say, hey, we like what you're doing, guys. We want you to keep doing it, but also to get new folks in here who are frustrated, who are ready to throw in their hat, who are throw in the towel, who are ready to move on, and they haven't experienced what you've experienced or you are striving to experience, which is the joy of owning a mule or donkey. We want them to come in here so that they realize they're not alone and there actually is a resource. So the next question that I've got here, Steve, this one's from Jeanette, and she asked the question, my mule is a pacer in her stall, in the corral, then paws standing tied to the trailer and being transported into the trailer. She's stressed out about it. She says, help. So what would you say to Jeanette here about pacing in the stall, in the corral, in everywhere they go, and then pawing when they're tied up?
Yeah, well, you've got a mule that's a sensitive mule that has a lot of energy and wants to get something done. I look for a mule like that when I got to get something done. I got to go back in the mountains and collect up some cows. I don't have to pedal a mule like that. That mule's got bottom end. It's got natural want to go. So we need to be able to focus that energy when it comes time. Now, so as far as the pacing inside of the corral, I've had them rear up and put their feet up on the top of the corral. I've had them dig a ditch literally all the way around and this sort of thing. They're the kind of animal that just standing around is not their thing. They're not Democrats, they're Republicans, Dave. So they want a job, they want something to do. You got that made, so that's what it is. That's all right. What do we do about that? Okay, let's go ahead and take advantage of the energy. Let's put a surcingle on them with the breeching, and let's go ahead and put a halter on them pre-adjusted, and let's let them move around with that halter and all that stuff, and they're training themselves. Take advantage of that. If they're going to be doing it, take advantage on it. Put that naturally rope halter adjusted on their nose, underneath the chin, take 2 baling twines, go back from the halter, go back to the surcingle, tie it off, and let them walk around. Pretty soon, they'll start getting halter trained. Pretty soon, they'll start getting supple in the neck and in the throat latch. And then as you progress, throw the mule rider's martingale on there. Get them to drop their head, get their nose on the vertical. In other words, put that energy to use. That mule wants a job, okay? And so therefore, give it a job. Now, the thing is, folks, we don't have enough work for them, okay? And so and they don't want to be in that corral, okay? They'd much rather be out in a pasture, getting fat, chasing their buddies around, things like that, which is not good for them. So will they get over it? Nope, okay? Not completely. They'll still turn and go to the gate, and they'll swing back and forth like this. My 2 mules, Tom and Katie, when they were alive, they were out of Shire mules. And after they'd eat, they'd turn around, go to the gate and say, okay, give me something to do. I want a job. Give me a job. We hook them up to the wagon, start up new colts, and go. Now, let's go back to the pawing. The pawing is also, I don't want to be here. When they paw, I don't want to be here. So let's make that part of it uncomfortable, all right? Really uncomfortable. You take a strap with a buckle in it, and you put one above each knee on the right and left side. And you put about 18 inches of real heavy chain on those straps. And then you take a rope or a piece of good baling twine and go from that hobble around the leg over top of the back to the hobble on the other side of the leg. I personally, what I use is a strap with a couple snaps that go into a ring. And that way it keeps the hobbles from going down the leg. And then when they paw, it makes them uncomfortable. Now, this is what's important. Remember, when you're training, we want to limit the amount of training. When they're doing good, we need to show them they're doing good. Not by saying, okay, Fluffy, good job. That's not it. What they're looking for is genuine comfort. So when they quit pawing, go in there, take off the hobbles, hang the hobbles up where they can look at them. And I tell you what, they'll start learning that if you tied them to a hitching post, they need to not paw there. If they tied inside the trailer, they need to understand not to paw there. See, folks, that's natural. It makes them uncomfortable, and that's what you have to do. Otherwise, not to what people do that you shouldn't do, hobble both feet together. You know, I have seen mules, horses really get their feet caught up into the bags where the feeders are and get themselves hurt. Or when we were using feeder areas with a 2-horse trailer, they'd get their front feet up in there, all kinds of crazy stuff. All kinds of crazy stuff. So don't hobble the 2 front feet, put the chains on there, and then as soon as they quit pawing, even if it's just a couple split seconds, take it away immediately. And that way you build on what's good, what you're looking for.
Very good. Judy also said, my Daisy is a, let's see here. Oh, gosh. My Miss Daisy is a pacer too. She gets ridden a lot, but she's always paced since the day I got her. So it's something that folks are concerned about. And it's like you said, hey, there's some things you can do about it, but it's never going to get it out of their mind. It's just what they've been created to do.
It's natural. And just like there, Daisy, I trained that mule when she was a 3-year-old. We punched cows on her. We roped cows. We worked in arenas. We worked on the side of the mountain. Daisy always had a big motor. She was always wanting to go. So the thing about Daisy and other mules like that, you ain't got to pedal them all the time. You ain't got to spur them all the time. They're wanting to go, and that's a good thing, you know.
Yeah. We've got Jack or Keith right here after our comment. Keith said, Mules built America. The story hasn't really ever been told. Now, Steve, I don't know if you remember this or not, but folks, I've known Steve here for going on probably 13 years or so. It's well over a decade. For about 13, 14 years. And we met through a mutual friend. Now, when I went out to his ranch in Queen Valley for the very first time, we were going out there to do a little bit of work. And I showed up. First thing Steve said to me is, partner, did you find the place okay? I said, yeah, I did. I'm here. I found it all right. Second thing he says, he goes, you know the West was won with mules, don't you? I said, I do now. That's right. There's a reason why they use mules at the Grand Canyon. There's a reason why they use mules when they're packing. Isn't that right, Steve?
Oh yeah, you know, you always see in the westerns a real keen-headed horse, you know, and they're always running off and at a trot. You know, they're not smart enough to be around a mule. It took real mule skinners, you know, that really can understand a mule. Look, folks, if you're going to understand a mule, you got to understand the donkey side. And that's where most horsemen or horse trainers don't understand. They don't really want to be around a donkey, but you want to be around brains. Brains is in that donkey. That's where the brains come from. You know, the beauty and things like this, the hips and, you know, that clean shoulder and that sort of thing. That all comes from the horse. But them nice, beautiful long ears and them brains, that comes from the donkey.
Very good. So we've got Doreen here. Hello, Doreen. We've got Jack from Johannesburg, Michigan checking in. Beautiful up here in Michigan, 80 degrees today. Jack, we are envious. Don't talk anymore or we're going to start to get jealous. We've got Natasha. Hey, just got back from riding my mule. He's doing amazing. We're glad to hear that. We've got William from Virginia. It's hot here, 89 degrees. I'd imagine there's a little bit of humidity maybe. Richard says, I've been reading your information. We appreciate that, Richard. Let's see. I have a mule ranch halter. It's doing its job. Thank you, Richard. We're so glad to hear that. We've got Patricia. Patricia, we're going to get to your comment here. We've got Sundance Kid Mark Miller from New Mexico today. Thank you for everything, Mark. It's our pleasure. Yeah. We've got Jason, Craig, and TJ over on YouTube. We've got all the gang here. Let's get to the next question. And I have one from Facebook that I want to get to, but you hit on something that I have actually lined up. So I want to go ahead and get to that one first. And it's the question here. Let's see. Oh, where did it go? Tammy sent a message into us. She goes, I have a good deal of experience with horses. I rode a mule once about 25 years ago. We hear stories like that a lot. A little bit of an experience with mules in the past. He was great. My question is, how do they differ? I heard that they are quite attuned to their routines, i.e. always starting on the same hoof when you pick up their feet. Is that true? If so, how do you handle that? Are they forgiving? Do they hold a grudge? What do you do differently from horses that you do with mules? What is their intelligence? So that's a
Wow.
really big and loaded question. I love that
Yeah.
Tammy's asking it.
Yep.
Steve, can you just speak to a little bit of that there and tell us a little bit of the basics there between the mule and the horse for those folks who are familiar with the horse?
Well, we ain't got enough time this year to get on that one.
I know, right? Isn't that the
Even if I
truth?
start now, it's just incredible. Okay, number one, mules care more about their nose than they do their mouth. So when you're doing your foundational training, you're going to start with what I call a come along hitch, go to adjust a halter. Remember, the halter adjusted is extremely important. It creates uncomfort. If you want to call it pain, you can. It creates discomfort when they're incorrect, and it gives them comfortable when you're correct. That's really important. You see most halters that with horsemen, they're adjusted real high. They're only on bone. If they really understood even the horse, they would understand that lower is where you start out. Any hackamore reinsman, you start out 2 fingers above the nostril, so you go on from there in different sizes of hackamore. So that's one thing. Another thing, you have to remember that when you're training a horse, a donkey, and a mule, all right? And it's poetry when the donkey and the horse come together making that mule. It just, everything is smooth and easy. You have to understand the donkey side. The donkey says, study things, understand what's going on. Oh, I see that now. Let's study that a minute, and that's the way they do it. Horse, here's lack of a better word. They're beat into submission, okay? And people don't think it's beating, but you watch them with their hands and they're pulling on a snaffle bit, and they're always pushing them. They're not allowing the bit to work. They're always making them work, That's pretty phenomenal. You'll find that a mule, that if you do steps in 3, 6, 9, 12, they'll respond a lot easier. Mules, when they do something, they need to think on it a little bit. Now, how did we do that? For instance, packing a bit. You put a snaffle bit in their mouth. You hang it down where it bumps the incisors. On a John mule, it bumps on the canines. That's the teeth right in behind the incisors. And they pick it up and they put it down. They pick it up and put it down. What do people usually do when they're horsemen? They put a cavesson around their nose and they shut their nose so that they don't mess with the bit. Let the mule spend time. Let him figure it out. When he figures it out, you don't have to worry about it. But look at these horsemen. You'll see the big old wads of slobber coming from their face. They're holding their head up. It's horrible using that cavesson to make them do something. What are they trying to make them do? Make them keep their mouth closed. Let the donkey pick it up and put it down. Well, I had a person call me the other day, says, man, it's been doing it for 30 minutes. And I says, okay, how old's the donkey? 8 years old? Oh, so he's now been 6 years picking a bit. You got some time to go yet, So put the bit in their mouth, let them spend time with it. So in other words, if you think that you're not getting anywhere, you wait. That mule after about 30 days can show you more than you can possibly imagine, You just have to go on all of my videos and see all the different things. I've had horseman after horseman tell me, wow, I didn't think that there was much more difference. And I can tell you, folks, that the few times that I do help somebody with their horse, they're like putty in my hands, You have to create within them you being the herd leader. Otherwise, you're blowing smoke. They're just going to go whoopee, it ain't going to happen. You'll see people all the time trying to use nylon halters. They've got misadjusted rope halters, and sure, they're getting some things done, but their communication is not crisp and clear.
Very good. I think we need to do an event, just 100%, 10 differences between horses and mules.
Yeah, I've had a couple times where I've had some friends with horses, and we've actually we both in an arena, and then they get an hour to explain things. And then I take that hour and I explain, that's what the horseman does, that's what the mule man does.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that's an eye opener. I wouldn't mind doing that again here at the ranch this winter. I know some pretty good horsemen that I could probably ought to give Ken McNabb a call. He's a great horseman, good Christian man. I should probably contact him and say, hey, you want to come down and do a little deal like this? Anyway, let's consider that.
Yeah,
Let's
I think
consider
that'd be
that.
fun.
Maybe
Well,
this
hey, we've got more folks joining us. We've got Foster from Florida. Glad you're here, Foster. We've got Jana from Wyoming. Let's see. We've got Nat from Missouri. Hey, Nat, good to see you.
That's my granddaughter.
There she is. We've got, let's see. We've got Aloha Kirk from New Mexico who sent in a question. I've got that in our queue. And the next question we got, this one comes from Craig. And Craig asked the question. He says, hello from Virginia. This is a great one to follow up what we just talked about. Will the ask, tell, demand method also work with horses, or do they just straight up think differently?
Well, they do straight up think differently. But yeah, I have actually used that with the horses and have done quite well with it. Got to remember that what horses tend to do is they seem to be, I'm going to call it lighter on their feet. They're more apt to rear. They're more apt to run off. Where mules brace. They brace against something and hold on to the ground more. But yes, I actually have used the technique with the horses and works very well. The come along hitch was the guy that I originally learned from was a Hackamore rangeman up in Canada, Nick West, and that come along hitch was one of his main tools. And then I was the one that started adjusting halters. Because of what I learned about hackamores and how they're supposed to be replaced or placed. And I never suggest folks to ride with a halter. Don't do that.
So with this theme that we're talking about, horses, mules, and the differences, can you talk a little bit? We've got a good conversation on YouTube that I'll link to. But for folks who are here right now, can you talk a little bit about the question that we get pretty often is, I've got a great horse trainer. Can that horse trainer train my mule for me? Is that a good fit? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it is something that folks really want to know. There's a lot of horse trainers out there, not as many mule trainers. Can that horse trainer train my mule?
You know, for the most part, you know, horse trainers can do very well. I can't completely speak to it because I don't know, quote, all the horse trainers. I know great horse trainers that are really good that have said to me, I didn't think that there was that much of a difference, and they are, you know. And I won't mention any names and this sort of thing, but it is a major difference in how you go about training the mule. The mule won't be pushed into something, where a horse, I'm going to call it, can be pushed into it, you know. A mule wants to stop and think about it, wants to look at things, wants to see everything, wants to see the safety of how things are. I've actually seen very few horse trainers that could really do a pretty decent job. And I'll tell you why. They haven't been around a donkey enough to see how donkeys move and train to be able to know how the mule goes. So I've seen very few horse trainers do any good. I can tell you some horror stories of people who said they had their horse at a trainer for 90 days, their mule at a trainer for 90 days, and he's a basket case. And then I tell them how to fix it, right? Now do this, and now do this, now this. And the biggest problem that horsemen use is they use a smooth snaffle bit. And that smooth snaffle bit, they got to pull on them. And you see, they don't understand that mules brace. Mm-hmm. They tighten all 5 major neck muscles and they'll throat latch, and they got them. So what does horse trainers think they got to do? They got to make them do it. They got to pull on them to get them to go. Watch those horse trainers on YouTube and those other places. They got their hands clear out here. You barely want to move your hands when you're training on that mule. Barely move your hands. Just barely moving. That's what you want to do. Not a bunch of this pulling around to the right or left. The less you pull on a mule, the better you're going to get along with them.
It's good. Next question that we got, this one comes from Patricia. She asked the question, I've got a mule that was scared to death of people when I got her. She's getting better, but every time I push her a bit past her comfort zone, she reverts to not letting me catch her and being very nervous again. I'm not sure how to keep advancing her training. The last episode was trying to ground drive her. So what would you say there to Patricia as she's got this animal that every time it just gets a little bit past the comfort zone, she gets a little bit out of control there?
Yeah, and it's, you know, that animal, a lot of people think they've been beat or been mismanaged and this sort of thing. Most of the time they hadn't. They've been, it's just flat their nature and it's next to impossible to get them to where they can really be trusted. I had a mule like that. His name was Tom. And a guy was dragging him behind a pickup truck going up the street, and my wife saw it and said, "Hey, what do you take for that mule?" She ended up taking the mule and throwing it in my corral. Actually, the mule pulled away from her and jumped into my corral because the corrals were a little lower and jumped in. Anyway, long story short, that mule, all his life, and we had him for several more years, and then we had other friends that had the mule after that. You couldn't 100% trust him. One day you go to get off him and he'll blow away as if you'd never been on him before. You know, it's just, you just can't 100% trust that kind of an animal. You can't desensitize them. Don't think you can have rolling balls and flags and stuff like that. It'll fix them. No, it is their nature. You cannot fix that nature. Okay. It can't be trained out. Can you give them things to do? Will they make a good pack mule? Yes. And when I say pack mule, there's nobody on their back to be unsafe when the mule runs off with them. And that's one of the downsides of that type of a mule, is they tend to want to run off with you. And I've trained a lot of them, and I've had a lot of them where I just would tell folks, you know, I'd like to tell you that you're going to be comfortable here, that you're going to be safe, but you're not, you know. Now, if you're cowboy for a living, you know things are going to happen, and you just pretty much take it as it goes along. And we've got some pretty nice mules down at the Andrada, but there's a couple of them pretty nervous. And if you don't ride them and watch them, they can get you.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Hey, Steve, we've got a little bit of an audio issue. So what I'm going to do, you're not going to see my face on your end. Everybody else will still be able to see me. But on your end, you won't be able to see me, but I'm still here. We're still here, okay? I'm just trying to fix this audio issue so folks can get your audio and your video synced up there. The next question that we've got here, this one comes from TJ over on YouTube. He says, what would you do to keep a 3-year-old mule from bolting? Doing groundwork, he'll turn when I'm doing groundwork, and he will turn and try to bolt and run. I'm using the come along. He's learning to give to press, but he will never quit. The bigger he gets, the harder it is to control him. What would you say there to TJ?
Well, definitely the come along hitch, TJ. You get one that's fearful like that. It's kind of like the mule I was just talking about. It wasn't so much that he's been beat or anything like that. He's just fearful. And that's the way they are. You got to also remember their eyes are wider apart on these mules. And so if you're on the left-hand side, they can see you really good. But all of a sudden you come around the right-hand side and they get scared. So that's just part of their life. That come along hitch, my friend, is going to be your best thing. But here's the thing. Start with small training sessions. So the mule is standing here and the mule looks off to the left. Even if it's just a little bit, bump him, make it uncomfortable. He looks to the right, bump him, make it uncomfortable. Don't just go out there and start flagging him and this sort of thing. Start with small steps so that he can see that he needs to focus on you. That's going to be your best thing to do.
Very good. So we've got a few more folks here. We've got Astra says, I'm late, but I made it. Better late than never. We've got Dan Davis. We've got Sherry Lewis. We've got David and Di Scholl. G'day, Steve.
G'day,
Steve and Dave, love your hat. Cheers, Dave. How am I doing there? David? Is that okay?
You're pretty good Australian there, David. Yeah,
yeah, all right there. Hey, it was great to have them out here. We had so much fun. What's that?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I'm just going to ask Di if I'm as good looking as Dave in this hat.
Di, how about that? Does Steve put Dave to shame wearing that hat there?
Woo! Don't get yourself in trouble now, Di.
It's a looker. We've got Karen here, Tracy chiming back in. We've got Kim, Trevor, Natasha from North Carolina. All of our friends are here. Wow, this is a fun day here. Let's see. Karen says, hi, Paul and Karen Heatwolf, listening from sunny Virginia. My question is about watering mules when camping and hunting. How often do you take them to water? Good question. I don't think we've had that before. Steve, what you say?
It's a good one. We've answered it in some ways, but let's say this word, electrolytes. Folks, here's the problem. Mules, and get it from their donkeys, and that they're very concerned about what they drink and what they eat. So I've had folks all the time say, oh, my mule don't need much water. Oh, yes, he does. They have to stay hydrated. Hydration is extremely important. So this is what I do. I'm getting ready to jump my mules in a trailer, and I'm gonna be gone for 2-3 days. Before I do that, I put electrolytes in the water. And the day I get ready to jump them in the trailer and go back into the mountains, I take a tube of electrolytes and I give them a tube of electrolytes apiece. Then they will be starting to hunt the water. Folks, when you go camping, take salt with you. Take granulated salt, put it in your nose bags with your whole oats, and let them eat that granulated salt, or put salt where they can get to it. But usually the granulated salt in your nose bag with a little bit of grain gives them that salt. And then use your electrolytes. So going back to the watering thing, to check to see if they're hydrated, there's 2 ways, and this is very, very important, guys and gals. Hydration is important. So you reel up the gum and you push on the gum line. Once you reel up the lip, push on the gum line and see how fast the capillary refill is. In other words, you'll see the color of it. When you push on it, it turns white. How quick does it turn back to being the reddish color again? That's one way, capillary refill, okay? How's the second part? Take a hold of some of the skin and get a hold of it and hold on to it, and they're pretty tight, and then let go of it and see how fast the skin comes back to being flat again, okay? Don't put water in front of them all the time. Waste of time. They're just going to knock it over, and you'll be always coming back bringing water. So you bring water over, and with the electrolytes, they're going to be hunting water, folks. And then when you put the salt, always, folks, get yourself a good nose band. I call it nose morale, feed bag, whatever you want to call it. And when you're feeding whole oats for your trail riding, whole oats builds energy. Whole oats gives you your top line. Whole oats does not give you the fat content. So you put that granulated salt in with your whole oats and then go ride. They got to have that granulated salt. And hydration, folks, you cannot give them enough water. You cannot. It's gallons of water a day.
Very good. So hopefully that answers there. Feel free, any follow-up questions, put them in the comment section. The next question that I've gotten, this one's from Natasha. She says, will the Mule Ground Foundation starting kit work with a donkey? I recently rescued a Jenny that is very docile and easy to work with. That's nice. She sometimes follows well with a halter and lead rope. Then others times she refuses to go anywhere unless you have a feed bucket. I'd like to be able to have more consistency with leading. Wouldn't we all? Steve, will it work with a donkey just like it works with a mule?
Absolutely, it does, folks. Look, when you're building a foundation, you know, it is a foundation for 6 months. Everywhere you go, come along hitch, come along hitch, come along hitch. Don't just say, oh, she's doing good, I think I won't. That'll be the day they're testing you. That'll be the day they got you. Come along hitch, come along hitch. You're going to go take them out of the trailer, come along hitch. You're going to lead them from A to B, come along hitch. That way, they understand you build a foundation. Now, the bucket of feed, folks, is fine when they're out in a pasture and you shake the bucket, come and get it. That's also the best way I know you can get hurt. I can't tell you how many times I've had people be stomped on, bit, and kicked and this sort of thing, shaking a bucket of grain. Susan and I was here several years ago in the early 90s with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Whitten, here in Arizona. And I was looking at some mules that he had for the Phoenix Zoo. And he had a horse spin and kick him in the chest. And he's a big man. He's close to 300 pounds at that time. And he blew back like a balloon had the air out of him. Broke a bunch of ribs and this sort of thing. Folks, that's not a good situation. Come along hitch, come along hitch. No goodies. Don't think you can hand feed them with the clicker training to teach them to stop and all this other stuff. No treats, okay? Now, if you want to lose the fingers and you want to get bit and you want to be stomped on, give treats. If you're going to give a treat, put it in a bucket, keep your fingers and your hands away from them. That was the biggest thing at the Phoenix Zoo. We had the mules where they could pet them and scratch on them. The mules would come up, love to be loved on. Had a great big 4x8 sign, big yellow sign with red letters, and it says, "Do not feed the mules." We had several people get bit and different problems. We ended up having to take that program out because people didn't follow the rules. You want to get yourself hurt? Feed treats.
Very good. I just put a link to your article, Don't Create an Ass from Hell. We talk a little bit about the treats in that article as well. Put that in there so folks can check that out. Karen was just following up. She says, how much granulated salt per day?
You know, the best thing I can tell you to do is just take that granulated salt and put it in there. I'll take a cup to 2 cups and with a big nose band and just put it in there. They'll take and eat what they need to eat. You can't just put a salt block out there and expect to have them lick on it. You're not keeping track of it, but you can keep track of the granulated salt. So tell yourself, put a cup in there with some whole oats and see how it works. And you're going to have to work at this and try to figure out your own feeding program, your own graining program per your mule. Now, just don't do this once you get there to the campground, folks. Don't do that. Do it at home. Start taking granulated salt and take a cup of it and put it in your feeder, okay? And I know a lot of you just feed hay and this sort of thing, and that's another story. But you've got to keep track of these animals, folks, their health. And if you put a cup of salt in there, then you'll know that they're actually getting their salt. Just a block of salt, which is okay if you're keeping track of it. But you got to, and don't bother getting that iodized salt, waste of money. I mean, that salt with the mineral block, that's a waste of money. Just get your good old-fashioned iodized salt block, if you're going to do it that way, and go from there. And then make sure you feed your other vitamins and minerals and this sort of thing.
Very good. We've got Suze and Yolanda from the Netherlands joining us. Howdy, ladies.
Hey.
Glad y'all are here. It's good to hear from you. Good to see from you. Natasha says, great. Thank you. I will purchase the bundle and get started with the foundation training. Awesome, Natasha. Let us know how it goes. And if you have any questions, ask. Steve, what do you want to say there?
Well, I might also mention, don't forget we had the foundation donkey training.
Oh, yeah, the video.
Saddle. Yeah, the saddle video, which will be really good. Folks, the thing about that foundation colt starting, you see 5 people that have never trained before. They're not professionals. You see me go step by step, show them how to do it, and you see them going at it and going good, okay? Now, you know, just because you guys get bucked off, that's not the mule's fault all the time. It can be your fault because of your miscommunication. So good ground communication makes a good saddle mule.
Very good. All right, so let's see. Dorsey from Winchester, Kentucky is with us. David from Clark, Wyoming, first-time mule owner, ding, 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 ding. And first-time mule owner of 1 week, very excited. David, we are so glad that you've joined the club. Do keep in mind that anytime you need us, we're here to help. Don't get frustrated. Get answers. These live streams, these online clinic Q&As are fantastic, but at the same time, you can always feel free to give Steve a call as well. So really proud of you. Glad to have you here. Edie says, howdy, Steve and Dave from New Mexico. Let's see. Doreen, I've got a question. Robin asked this question over on YouTube. 4-year-old Molly constantly spins and kicks near mares. We have 4 rides in together. Have about 4 rides in together, but never near mares. Are there any preventative exercises I can do to prepare for when we're riding near mares? There we go.
Yeah. Okay, number 1. Hey, Dorsey, I hope your ribs are getting repaired. Dorsey had kind of a wreck here a while back. I think he's getting better. So let's go back to the spinning and kicking, okay? Mares are usually the herd leaders. And so this little mule is trying to tell the rest of the mares, I'm the leader, I'm the boss. Folks, that's what's natural to them. You know, you cannot change what is natural. Can you put cues on it to say you're not doing that? Yes, you can. But it's going to take your abilities to communicate. This is what I would do. Okay, I'm setting them on the mule, and I know she'll spin and kick at some other mares. So what am I doing? I'm sitting there with my hands in direct reining position with my mule rider's martingale, because I know I'm going to be doing some training, and I'm sitting there waiting. And I look at her ears. As soon as I see the mule look toward another animal or move an ear toward it, I go ask, right, left. And then I should get a response. When the mule decides, well, let me just test that again, he sneaks off another little look toward the one he wants to spin and kick at. Remember, folks, when the spinning and kicking is done, it's already over with. It's already done. You should be fixing it when they're thinking about it, not when they've done it. Now, think about this. What do? They look at them first. They throw an ear at them. Look for the small things that says, I don't like that mare over there. Those little small things, the nose, the ear, whatever. But use your hands. You're going to ask. Boom, boom. They don't want to do that. They want to look again. Tail. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Now remember, this is your life at hand too. Because if they get in a spinning kicking match, guess what? You're going to get kicked because one of them are going to be kicking here because she's kicking at them. So you want to say, okay, Fluffy, don't do that. Go ahead and get yourself hurt. Or try ask, tail, demand. It's the natural way of doing it, folks. The natural way. And I can't believe these people who say they're natural horsemen and they're not using it. If they would watch the equine, they'll see it. Pinning the ears, swishing the tail, asking, telling, demanding. So, you know what? The mule looks a little look, I ask. The mule looks and says, no, I want to get a stronger look, I tail. No, I really want to look, I demand, and I try to rip their face off. I do. And then the mule's going to say, oh, wait a minute. That's not right. So then I'll get to where I can barely pick up the bridle. Barely pick it up, and it's done. Now, I can fix the problem, but then when I turn it over to you, yes, it's trained, but now it's up to you and your timing. You cannot say, okay, I've trained that problem, and it's never going to come back. Just a minute. It will come back. Just like your car needs to be tuned or your tires need to be rotated. Sooner or later, it's going to come back around it again.
Yep, very good. I'll tell you what, when I was down there at the Andrada Ranch last month, earlier this month, it's been about 4 weeks now. One of the things that I noticed, we're talking about the ask, tell, demand. One of the things that I noticed is the most violent and brutal interaction I've ever witnessed with a mule is between two mules themselves. I have never seen anything, as far as mules go, I have never seen anything more violent or brutal than one mule correcting the other mule. And You're absolutely right. If you stop and you look at how they interact, it's that herd leader that keeps everyone in place.
Yep.
And they snip at one another and they get after one another, and that's how they communicate. And of course, if they don't want to get snipped after, well, okay, they just kind of move on and they do what that herd leader tells, and they get left alone. And that's one of the things I've noticed with your training, Steve, is a lot of times people will think like, oh, rubbing on them in treats and everything. And I know you're not one for treats, but the rubbing is like, yeah, that's fine. You can talk nice to them and everything. But the greatest affirmation and the greatest reward that you can give them is just leaving them alone. They just want to be left alone. They just want to be comfortable. And so when you you talked about the nose band earlier. And if you put it up here where it's just bone, it doesn't really do anything. They don't really care. They don't mind it because it's not making them all that uncomfortable. But you move it down, and all of a sudden they're going to listen to you, because what's the thing that they want more than anything? If there's anything I've learned from you, Steve, it's this. They just want to be comfortable. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, they're willing to do it, but you have to show them that they're going to be really uncomfortable if they don't pay attention to you. Folks, you've got to be in their language. It's got to be their natural way of going, I see people all the time thinking they've got a new thing. There's no such thing as a new thing out there. Watch the mule. Watch the horse. Watch the donkey. They'll teach you. Watch them when they come and they go from feeder to feeder to feeder. That mule comes up or that horse comes up, pins his ears. The other one sees it, he moves out of the way. Then he goes to the next feeder, pins his ears, and that mule moves out of the way. And it goes down the run. Wednesdays, Dave, we're going to video several mules and horses in a pen and watch them moving one another. People will see it. This stuff of natural horsemanship. You want to know what natural horsemanship is? Read Dr. Robert Miller's book on natural horsemanship explained. And I mean, that man knows what it is, natural horsemanship. He designed the imprinting. He's been around greats, that have been awesome horsemen, that have put the Pat Pirellis and the John Lionses and the Steve Edwardses out there, and when it comes down to the details of it, it comes down to they really just want to be left alone. They want to be relaxed, and if you'll just show them this is what you want, end result, you're done.
Very good. I'm going to put a link in the comments section to Natural Horsemanship Explained by Robert M. Miller. It's available on Amazon. So, folks, if you want to get that, you can. The next question that I got here, we've had some really good ones today. This one's come from Doreen. She says, how do you keep mules from buddying up with mares? We already talked about this a little bit. How do you keep them from buddy up with mares? What if they tend to just be that way?
Yeah, well, they're that way because it's natural for them to be that way. Mules are very subservient to horses, very subservient. At Yosemite, we rode geldings, and we have 5 mares. Our 5 mules, mares and geldings. And when we would get into camp, we'd go ahead and hobble a back leg to our horse, and we'd turn all of our mules loose, no halters, nothing. And they'd go out and graze and this sort of thing. They'd come back and check on the horse, go out and graze, come back and check on the horse. They're very subservient to horses, folks. And you're not going to change that, but that's when it becomes a rider. Are you a good enough rider to be able to say, no, we're not going to follow that horse? And you can do it, but you have to learn the ask, tell, demand.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to use your spurs, and you have to be able to be willing to use the mule rider's martingale. That gives you the ability to take away what they naturally know to get you, and that is throw their nose out, throw their head up, and they're gone. But if you've been to any of my clinics where I help people with that communication, it's a simple thing. But you cannot take it away. It's not something that you can say, now they're trained to do it. Just like backing up, there, you can pretty much say, yeah, I can back them up anytime, turn them right or left. But when it comes to something natural like that, as subservient to another horse, you ain't going to change it. You need to learn how to communicate so that when you want it done, it can get done.
Yep, there you go. Dan Davis writes, I've rode my mule about 5 times now using the come-along rope for a month now. I can saddle him up with all the tack without being tied up. Can mount him. I have a little bit of trouble putting your bit in his mouth, but the more I ride him, the less responsive he is with the reins. If he wants to go left and I pull right rein, he will turn his head to the right, but he will go where he wants to with his head turned to the right eventually. If I pull enough, he will turn, but should I bump the reins or actually pull his head around until he goes where I want? And I know you're going to ask if his teeth are floated, and I just got them floated, but haven't rode him since. How about that? Dan is listening. Dan, you are awesome. Yes. That is cool. Steve, what do you say there?
All right, here's the problem. We say we want to go to the right. The mule says, I want to go to the left. So he's pulling to the left. What do? We tend to pull him to the right because we want to go to the right. Well, then the mule tightens all 5 major neck muscles, and he runs through his shoulder, and he still goes to the left. So don't pull on him to the right. It's what you do. He goes and pulls off to the left. You want to go to the right? You tell him, we ain't doing that. Right, left, right, left. You ask. He goes to pull off to the left. Right, left. You tell. He goes to pull off the left. You rip his nose off. Right, left. You demanded. Spinning, kicking, and biting, right? All except for you're using it in your hands. Now, he'll come back again. You ask him to go off to the right. He'll take a few steps. Want to go off the left? Go at it again. Right, left. But what folks tend to do is when the mule goes to the left, they pull them to the right. All it's going to do is teach the mule to tighten all 5 major neck muscles. Use your ask, tell, demand. Right, left, right, left. Stop him. Don't keep on going because you're going to get in a fight with him. Stop him. Right, left, ask. Right, left, tell. Right, left, demand. Using your martingale. Now, let's go back. Let's go. That's ahead of things. That is in the saddle. Start with the come along hitch. Remember, folks, the small things. This right here. Here's the mule looking. And all of a sudden, he looks off to the left. A little bump with the come along hitch. He comes back to center. He looks off to the left again. A little bump with the come along hitch with a little bit more stiffness. So you ask, now you're told. He looks off to the left again. Now you demand. Bump, 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 bump. Okay? You fixed it before it became a problem. Tom Dorrance, wonderful horseman. You need to get that book. It's called True Unity. If you've ever seen Tom Dorrance, as I have, it's been incredible. The man was a master. But what did he start with? Small things. The small try. We tend to get in the saddle and go. No, no, no. Before the get in the saddle, the go. Get the halter. Small tries. Small tries. Move them off a few feet. They're to pay attention. Straightness. Tom says the two things that you need to teach an equine. Number one, straightness. Number two, break the flight and fright. The feet don't move. You hear horsemen all the time. Horsemen, you hear that word? Horsemen all the time say, just go with him. Let us keep feet going until he quits moving his feet. When I'm at the Grand Canyon, I don't want to do that. You know, that looks fine out on flat ground. Eventually, he's going to get tired of moving around in a circle, moving his feet. But when I'm at the Grand Canyon, I don't want him to move his feet. When I'm on the side of a mountain, there's a big cliff over here. I want him to move his feet when I tell him to. Now, Fluffy, don't do that. Did I lose you there?
No, I'm still here. Sorry, I forgot about that. You can't see me. The audio issues have all but corrected themselves, so we're pretty good there. Sorry about that. TJ's got several questions, and TJ, I'm going to say on that last one about the length of the Britchin beta strap, go ahead and reach out to Steve. I put his number there, but he does want to know who makes your pack saddle. What's its weight versus a wooden sawbuck?
Okay, they're actually very similar to weight. The pack saddle was originally designed by Abe Hewitt right here at the ranch, with using my mules and thoughts and this sort of thing on it. I pretty much keep who makes my tack to myself. You are welcome to ask questions and this sort of thing. But as far as the adjustable pack saddle, that was how I first learned what angles and how my bar needs to be designed. And that's how I come up with the riding saddle I did, using my pack saddles. But we've got them in stock, and we usually ship them out within 3 or 4 days.
There we go. Put that in the comment section there, so if folks want to check that out, they can. Next question we've got here is, this one's on packing. It's from Nat. Nat says, I want to start training one of my mules to pack. Where do I start?
All right, that's my granddaughter. I can see I'm going to have to make a trip to Missouri here shortly. She's really going at it. She's great. Okay, Nat, I can see a pack saddle coming in the mail towards you. Yes, sirree. Where do you start? I know you have all of my videos, so you take my packing video, basics of packing, all 3 videos, and start watching that. By the way, at the end of that, you'll see when I win the world championships at Bishop, and at the very end of the packing demonstrations. But that's another story. And that packing's a great deal, folks. To pack one, getting them ready for riding and stuff is a wonderful thing. I mean, the days of cowboying for me are gone. We no longer throw the blindfold on and snuff them up to a post and climb on and get it done. That was the old Steve, and the old Steve is gone. I don't live in the past, okay? So to pack them to start with, to drive them to start with, man, that's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, start with the packing videos there, Nat, and I can see Grandpa's going to have coming to to Missouri here shortly. So, all right, we'll visit more about that a little later.
So for Nat, the place to start is by letting Grandpa know. For everybody else, it's the basics of packing DVD series.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I wish she was right next door, clear in Missouri. My goodness, but yeah, I love it, kid.
Very good. Kevin's got a question here. He says, one of our mules came up lame the other day. We were wondering what the issue could be. The joint just above the hoof on the front left leg seems to be giving her issues. We can lift and poke and prod at her hoof. Can hoofs be too long? Because this too long and cause pain like this? Our farrier trimmed her 5 weeks ago, and we thought her left hoof was still too long.
Yeah, and that's every bit of possible of it being too long. But ring bone, how do you know? You said you've been doing some prodding and this sort of thing around that hairline. Because I'm thinking what you're telling me. How do you know that they're sore and not breaking over good? Really, folks, ring bone is a horrible thing that happens to a lot of mules, and side bone as well. Anytime you're doing a purchase, your pre-purchase exam, you want to make sure that your veterinarians take and do some pictures around there and see what it's like. Now, I can feel the ring bone when I'm pushing around on the hairline. That's one way, but otherwise, the best way, get your veterinarian to shoot some pictures of it and figure it out and go from there. Now, I'd have to see pictures of the foot to tell you if it's trimmed enough, and then go from there.
Awesome. So I told Kevin to send you a text message, 602-999-6853 with the pictures. So Kevin, go ahead and do that. Yolanda's got a question. What about a mule that is enjoying life in a field of old-fashioned grasses and herbs and stuff and loving to be out there, but loves to be with you at the same time, saying, hey, when are we going to go do something together? Sounds like the perfect mule.
Yeah, Yolanda, you better go. Get yourself saddled up and get out of here. By the way, I need to talk to you anyway. I got a couple questions for you about some things there in the Netherlands. But anyway, just get on that mule and go. Congratulations.
Get on and go. Deanna's got a question. She sent us an email. She says, Elsa's coming along, but I'm still having problems catching her. Even in a small pipe corral enclosure, she either just doesn't want to be caught or panics. Either way, she runs off when you get about a foot from her. And if cornered, even at a snail's pace, she'll try to climb away, get out of the stall. Once she's finally caught, she's fine, though I'm not sure if it's fear or if she's just a brat. The second question is, after the come-along rope is on, she'll lead, but really slowly. This was her fourth session with a week in between. She's only a year old. Should I be expecting more?
No, you shouldn't be expecting more. It's a year old. She's already scared. So, you can only ask so much of her. But here's the thing, folks. Don't hem them in, especially if you got corners. If you got a 20 by 20 and you got corners, as you're walking up, and this is really important, as long as they're looking at you, they're saying, come on, visiting hours are over. You are not walking toward the nose. You are walking toward the shoulder. You are not walking to the hip that says go forward. You are walking to the shoulder. Shoulder is the neutral ground, okay? That's your neutral area. You go to the nose, it says whoa. You step back, come to me, go to him, goes away from you. I never, ever ask a mule to come to me in my first sessions. I always ask them to stand there. I go to them. Horsemen, you'll see them all the time. They're trying to mimic John Lyons and this sort of thing to have the horse come to you. And everybody goes, oh, look how cute. No. Anybody can have one come to them. It's when you got to go to them. There is horsemanship. There's when natural horsemanship works. All right, now go back. The mule is looking at you. Visiting hours are on. Come on. When the mule looks away, you stop. Don't keep on going. Stop. You're doing the same thing over and over again. The mule's got you. He's got you figured out. And as soon as the brat comes out in her, she's gone. So let's go back. When you stop, the mule's going to be just looking. And then all of a sudden, you step one step to the right. The mule's going to turn and look at you. Like, how come you moved? How come you moved? And then she turns away again. You step a step or two toward her. She turns away again. You stop.